Welcome back to Northwest City Politics in the Know with Juanita. We're glad to have you with us on our show again this week. We're very glad there's people like you out in our audience that are interested in the issues that are happening in our cities. Because it is important for good government that there be a good flow back and forth between the city staff, the mayors, the city council people, and then the people that live in the city. So when there's an issue that interests you, that you follow up and that you let your city council people know too. So we're glad to have you with us. From time to time, if you haven't watched our show before, we will have somebody on from one of the 9 cities in Northwest Community Television's viewing area to tell us what issues are happening in that city. And from time to time, we'll have people on from wider areas of government like the Hennepin County Board or some legislators that will talk about issues that affect all of our cities. So we're glad that you're with us tonight. And we're very glad to welcome as a guest Mayor Jim Adams.
Thank you.
Had you on our show before, well, we're glad to have you back again.
It's good to be back. Good to see you.
And as we go through the show, if you're from Crystal, be sure to jot down Jim's phone number or his email, because if it's an issue that concerns you, then you can let Jim know what you feel about it.
That's correct. Thank you.
And you've been on our show before, so you know that I'm going to let you introduce yourself out to our wider audience.
Okay.
Tell them a little
Sounds
bit about
good.
your time in Crystal.
All right. Well, I'm the mayor of Crystal, and I've been mayor for 3 years. My background before I became mayor is pretty much financial, and then I became an entrepreneur. In my entrepreneurship, I did rental real estate. And my wife and I created our own construction business. Cool. So we own our own job now. So that's what we do primarily. We've kind of shifted from some of our rental real estate. We run 2 sober homes now. 12, it's more than 12. It's 10 guys. And then there's another group of guys. It's about 14. So quite a few guys that it's a business in itself when you run it. It's not just rental real estate. It's helping people with their sobriety and working your program and all that. So that's kind of what we do now. A lot of people don't know that, but it's something.
Well, that's interesting.
It is.
Yeah.
My history with Crystal has only been in the mayorship position.
Okay.
The city of Crystal, but I've been with West Metro Fire for a long time.
Oh, right.
I'm finishing up my 16th year. I've served in many capacities. I started, of course, as a firefighter. I became an officer, and when I became mayor, I had to step down because there was a bit of a conflict.
Right. I thought we should touch a little bit on the Bottineau Blue Line light rail. Where is it at? Stage for people out there?
There are a lot of meetings going on.
Okay.
There's a lot of meetings. I'm on a corridor committee. It's the elected officials or their appointees.
Okay.
For all the cities from Minneapolis, Robbinsdale, Crystal, Brooklyn Park, and we talk about some of the technical issues that are happening, some of the problems that may be creeping up, and it's a way for us to communicate with the Blue Line committees and the Blue Line group. There happens to be an awful lot of them. They're housed out of Crystal.
Okay.
And there is just like an army of people working on the planning of this thing. So
there's a lot going on behind the scenes.
There's a lot going on behind the scenes. But also there's a lot of committees because I'm also being asked to be on one that's being organized by Hennepin County.
Okay.
And it's similar, but we haven't started, so I'm not sure what our focus is going to be. It seems very similar to the one from the Blue Line. However, it's going to come from, I would guess, more of a Hennepin County point of view. And then we will be looking for another group of citizens to talk about zoning.
Oh, that would be important.
I'm not quite sure why we're having a group of citizens deal with zoning when we have a council that deals with zoning.
Right.
But that's what they're calling for.
Part of the process,
It's part of the process, and we'll kind of see where that goes. Ultimately, it will be the council's responsibility to change
before anything gets changed.
Before any zoning changes happen, or if they happen.
So you're needing volunteers for that committee?
Yes, we will
Okay.
at some point. We haven't defined what we're looking for, how
Okay.
we're going to find them, how we're going to staff them. We're talking about staffing them from 2 other organizations, which we've also created
Okay.
for the Blue Line. One is a business advisory council, and one is a citizen advisory council. And they're both Blue Line related, and they they'll do their work and they'll report to the corridor committee, which is the one I'm on. And it's working through the technical aspects of making this thing happen. So
Well, and then at this point, there's like public input on the stations happening, right?
Right. We've had one in Crystal last week, and you'll have to look on the Blue Line website to find out when they're coming. But they're going to hit the whole area.
Right. So there isn't an opportunity for people to put
Absolutely.
their input
Yes,
in now.
Yes. In fact, get on the website and look from time to time because they keep creeping up.
Well, and the Met Council is the best place to go. And if I'm thinking right, that people can go on there and sign up for updates.
Yes,
so
that's
if they're
correct.
concerned about this process and they're interested, then they should go on the Met Council's website and tune in on the Blue Line, Light Rail Transit Blue Line.
They will have a way to direct you,
Right.
whether it be Met Council or the new organization, that the Blue Line organization in Crystal. They're probably doing most of the work as far as having some of that communication put on the website.
So then they could go on there and get be able to know what's really happening by following on that website, and then getting updates too directed to them with email.
Yep, that's great.
Now we'll update on something completely different. The Crystal Gallery Mall is, for people that don't live in the Crystal area, is at like Bass Lake Road and West Broadway, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's on the north side of the road, right?
I get so confused with those diagonals.
It
is on the north.
Yes, it's on the north side.
North, almost east is the way I think of it. Yes.
North and east side. But a lot of work had been happening there, and they were going through what they call a remalling process. Can you tell us what that is?
Okay. It's a demalling.
Oh, demalling. Okay.
So we're unmalling.
Okay, unmalling.
It's a mall. No, it's not a mall.
Right.
What they've done is they've taken the mall aspect of that facility was in front, so you could walk and get into any business from that front mall area. They've taken that space and they've returned it back to the spaces of the occupants.
Okay.
So there's more square footage for each business that comes in.
Sure.
So it's changing more to the feel of outside entry, small town.
Right.
So they have their own entry coming from the outside. So it's a little bit, it's kind of a trendy thing. That is done, and what else is done is there's an outbuilding there, which includes Starbucks, Noodles and Company, and there's a hair cutting place as well.
Okay.
So that changed the way it felt. It felt more like some of the more current malls being built. What they haven't done yet is the parking lot.
Oh, an important area.
It is an important area. If you've been to this mall, you know that when you pull into this mall, you go all the way up to the building, and then you turn left or right to go to your parking.
Right.
So it's very cumbersome. It's a fairly long entry, and they're actually going to increase their parking space. And once you get off Bass Lake Road or Broadway, excuse me, you'll be able to turn and go towards whatever your destination is. And it's going to be landscaped, landscaping plans, beautiful. The access and the ability to go where you want to go is going to be enhanced as well.
And so that's a project for this summer?
That's a project for this summer.
Okay.
So you haven't seen any activity yet on that, but by the end of August it should be done. So.
And then it will be a completely redone mall.
It will look very different. An interesting part of that mall, there's at one end, which would be further east, is a 2-story area. And that's where the LRT Blue Line group is housed.
Oh, okay.
So, since we've been talking about both,
know,
but that's where they're working out of. So nice and close to where it will ultimately be.
Right. So changes on the horizon.
It is. It is.
And getting accomplished. But a lot of people seem to like to be able to drive up to stores rather than walk around, right?
Yeah,
it's kind
that's
of
right.
The new thing.
It's a different feel.
Right, a different way of doing things. Now, there's a joint water commission, and it's made up of Crystal, Golden Valley, and New Hope.
Yes.
And can you tell people a little bit about the background of what's referred to as the JWC, right?
Yes, the JWC is a joint venture between the three cities that you just mentioned, and we share the expenses of the infrastructure as well as the water supply itself. We get our water from Minneapolis.
Right.
So there are pipelines coming from Minneapolis water supply coming to Crystal as well as Golden Valley.
Right.
And we house, in each of those cities, we house water in the reservoirs, and we also send it over to New Hope into their water tower. So that's where the water supply is in our cities, but it's all coming from the same source. We've had some challenges with water supply.
Right.
A couple years ago.
Right.
We were to the point where we were almost out of water.
Oh, I know. Living in New Hope, you think,
You know, it depends on who you ask. We were anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour away from running out of water, and it was a very serious situation. And that's kind of what's led us into a lot of our more recent conversations. A lot has happened since then. Immediately following that event, we had a huge water main break coming from our supply from Minneapolis.
Right.
And that happened, unfortunately, in Robbinsdale.
Right, they bore the brunt of
Right,
that, right?
Yeah, right off of Highway 81 or Botna Boulevard in 42nd, where the McDonald's is. There's a huge hole in the in the street, so they had to close that off. And it's right in their business district, so it's very inconvenient. And we thank them for their patience and all through that process. But we thought it was a fluke. We thought it was a bad install. Right. And we did some testing on the main itself. They floated something down the line, and it was supposed to be able to detect leaks. Right. So we did that, and we thought, okay, yeah, maybe it was a fluke. Yeah. And then
and that had gotten taken care of.
So we had that repaired, and a year goes by roughly, and another water main break.
Yeah, a little farther up the road.
A little farther up the road, and now it's like, okay, this is not a fluke.
Right.
So we need to take this very serious, and we did quite a bit of research as far as what those mains look like inside. Right. So that's what's kind of that's occupied most of our work for the last year. And we've determined that, we need to do some replacement and repairs all the way from Minneapolis to our reservoir in Crystal. So that's a big deal.
Oh, right, it is.
And our citizens have been already informed that they're going to see a little rate hike to deal with the infrastructure needs. So.
Well, and then those water lines have gone like 50-some years, right?
Right. The useful life we didn't expect failure for quite a few more years, though. Right. The useful life is out a little bit more on those lines. And unfortunately, they're not holding up that way.
So what kinds of solutions did the three cities look at?
Well, we went to engineers because politicians don't have a clue when it comes to digging in, below the streets and figuring out how to do that. And plus, the technology moves so fast.
Oh yes, nowadays.
The engineers came back with basically 3 recommendations, and we're using all 3. Oh, okay. There's 2 different types of lining projects. One is a loose slip fitting. Okay. It's a smaller diameter that fits inside, and then there's another lining project which they take something and they bore out the old, and then they put a sleeve in. Okay. So those are the repairs, so to speak, and then there is just opening up the street and replacing the whole thing. So we will be doing that too. They call that open cut. Okay.
Yep. Some of each of those on different parts of the line?
Yes. We have to bore underneath Highway 100. Okay. So the nice thing about some of the slip joints or the slip linings, you can open a small portion, whether it be 50 feet, whatever, and keep them in the center parts of the lanes, and then work underneath for I don't know what the distance is, but for a ways. Right. And then you open up another one down further, and and that really helps with traffic and congestion and inconvenience. Lord knows we've inconvenienced Robbinsdale enough now, so we don't want to do any more of that.
No.
So it's a really good solution.
Oh, yeah, it sounds like it. And what will the cost of this be?
The cost is just shy of $5 million. Yeah, and each city has to bear their own portion.
Right.
We do it based on a percentage.
Sure.
Crystal's is roughly $1.2 million.
Okay.
Those costs came down from our initial projections,
Right.
so we're really happy to see that.
That was good.
It's not quite as much as we thought it would
Right.
be, but that should be starting now.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know where they're starting specifically, but it's going to be somewhere between Victory Memorial Parkway and the reservoir in Crystal on 41st Street, 41st Avenue.
Yeah, is that the Crystal Reservoir is right off of 42nd?
Yep, between
Okay.
42nd and 41st.
Okay.
Yep. And they should be completed by mid-September, possibly sooner.
Okay.
I mean, some of the earlier projections were sooner, but I think we're hedging our bet now and saying middle of September. So,
Good idea.
yeah, make sure
But
it gets done.
then it is a project that will probably have some effect on the driving and the traffic and the roads.
It'll be minimized.
Okay.
Yep. I don't think there's road closures. There might be narrowed. Where there's 4 lanes, there might be 2. So it won't be horrible. I don't think we'll have to redirect.
It will be a big improvement from holes in the road where you got it all blocked, right?
Yeah. I mean, the last thing we want is to call Robbinsdale up and say, sorry.
Right.
You know, but that's why we took it so seriously, because
right.
you know, it affects their businesses, it affects their whole community.
Oh,
and
definitely.
it's not even their water.
Yeah, and then this isn't even helping us in any way, shape, or form.
They've been great to work with. So.
Well, and then you've also been working on emergency water supply, which that whole thing has been settled on what you're going to do, right?
Right. We actually have a couple wells dug. The design that we agreed upon was to drill one in Golden Valley near their reservoir, one in Crystal near our reservoir, and then another one not far, but just in a little different aqua filter from our reservoir. We were planning on opening or reopening one in New Hope.
Right.
That it still existed, it just hasn't been operational. Right. And we've accomplished 3 of them as being operational. And when we got to the project dealing with the water mains, we decided to hold that one off in Golden Valley, and we'll hit that probably after this project. So we'll just put it off a few years.
Yeah. So it's something that you hope you never need, but you want to have it there if you need it.
Right. It was interesting because the timing of creating those emergency wells came right after the first water main break, and it was nice because we were already having the conversation.
Right.
And then we thought, okay, great. There truly is a need. We were 20 minutes away from losing water, so let's get serious about our infrastructure and our water. And we did that, and really what happened is the 3 wells we put in service are equivalent to what we expected the 4 wells to produce. So the fact that we're holding off on Golden Valley, it doesn't mean we're at risk.
Right.
The 3 wells could handle the whole water supply for all 3 cities. We would have to probably have people conserve the best they could, because we certainly can't operate at normal operating use, but we can at low use.
And then during this process of the reconstruction of that whole system, there might be usually one of the benefits of getting Minneapolis water is you don't get restrictions in the summer, right?
Right.
But there might be some restrictions as they're working on it, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. Because we're shutting down the whole supply line coming from Minneapolis. That means Golden Valley is going to be supplying essentially all 3 cities.
Okay.
Yeah. That's kind of the opposite of what happened with that storm in 2013.
Right.
It was Crystal that was supplying
Oh, right, right.
all three because Robbinsdale was just finishing up some upgrades on their infrastructure.
Ah.
And they were just coming online the day that storm happened.
Oh, right.
And we were calling, panicking. We need to be online. We need to be online. And they got them online, and it was within an hour of getting them back online that water main broke.
Right. So
Just freaky.
It worked out all to the best.
It did.
Right.
It did.
And it didn't definitely impel the cities to say, we've got to look into this and figure a solution.
Right. That's right. So that was the impetus.
And then that's an example of three cities working together cooperatively.
Right.
On
We've had good relationships
Yep.
with Robbinsdale, Golden Valley, New Hope.
Over the years in many different areas.
It's not just water. It's
right.
it's everything. It's great.
So the only thing people need to worry about that is their bills might go up a little, but that makes sense because you got to pay for it, right?
Yep, it's for the infrastructure, and we've committed to holding the cost to where we're putting it this July for 2 years.
Okay.
So you're not going to see an increase. Normally there's a little bit of increase each year because the cost coming from Minneapolis incrementally goes up each year, and we've committed. Okay, I don't want to just nickel and dime the citizens every year, so that will erode the amount of money that we're using for infrastructure as the next 2 years goes by. But there is some design for some of that dollar increase is going to deal with other infrastructures inside of our grid.
Right.
So inside of New Hope, Crystal, and Golden Valley, it'll be the stuff on the other side of the reservoir.
Right.
Not nearly as vital, but still it's the same age.
Oh,
And
right.
And we're expecting to see some degradation in some of those pipes as well. And we're planning for the future in that respect. So.
And then depending on what the summer brings, they may or may not need to deal with some water restrictions.
Right. Yeah, that's going to depend on rain.
Right.
I think.
Nothing we can do about that. Right.
Right.
Now, a different area is there's a Bassett Creek Regional Trail that goes through Crystal. And can you describe approximately where this runs for people that aren't familiar with your city?
Sure.
Okay.
On Highway 100, there's a bridge that goes over around 29th, or what would be right the same area as Medicine Lake Road.
Okay.
So it crosses over. There used to be, for people who may have gotten off, there used to be a place to get on and off there before the highway was reconstructed. So that's where there's a bridge. It goes, a pedestrian bridge. It goes over. And that comes down and moves to the north, and it cuts through Bassett Creek Park.
Okay.
And then you will, the trail will obviously go on the the north side of Bassett Creek Park. And then it will follow that street to the west, which is 32nd.
Okay.
And it will go all the way to Nevada before it turns north. And then Nevada, it will go north all the way to 32nd. And then, 36th.
Okay.
Okay, so you're going from 32nd to Nevada to 36th. You get to Winnetka, and it's Northwood Park. It kind of it goes back into the park there. And it comes out on the other side of the park in New Hope on Boone Avenue.
Yeah, because there's several different cities that get involved in this part of this trail.
Right. It's this particular section is pretty much Golden Valley, or Crystal and New Hope.
Okay.
We end up connecting. There's a little bit of Plymouth. We end up connecting this trail to French Park on 36.
Right. So it will enable people that want to hike and bike and bicycle.
Yep. Well, there's a lot of trails that it connects to. It connects to the you have an ability to go to the I forgot the name of the line.
Loose line?
Loose line, thank you. The loose line. And then there's a new one being built in Robbinsdale as well. That's being built this year. And it pretty much it gives you access to all the regional trails in the area. So if you enjoy biking and that sort of thing, you have a great network, easy accessible.
Mm-hmm. And that's been a really a growing interest over, what would you say, the last 5-10 years?
The bike trails?
Yeah, the bike trails that are in the area?
Yeah. I mean, Hennepin County has been, in Three Rivers, this has been in works for a long time, probably that whole 10 years.
Okay.
You know, from the impetus of the idea to the bridge was part of that.
Right.
So
that was, you get pedestrians
that was
over
well
169.
over 10 years ago.
Right.
So this is somebody's brainchild from a long time ago. So this is a little section that between Crystal and New Hope is just the completion of that trail.
It finishes it off.
Right.
And then it gives another opportunity for people in our two cities to have a recreational outlet.
Right, yes.
A big plus. How are projects like this funded?
This particular one has gotten quite a bit of federal funding. So we've all heard of the federal funds that come to the bike trails. This is one of them that's benefited from it. And there's a certain amount of local funding that has to be applied in order to
to
get that
percentage.
Yeah, and in this particular section, there's going to be we're kind of hoping that Hennepin County will be covering that, so that New Hope and Crystal won't.
Right.
I mean, that is the plan. I mean, there's no indication that Crystal or New Hope has to pay anything more. It's just a matter of them going through their process of getting the grant from Hennepin County. And that will become the local piece that is required
and
federally.
then it links up a couple sections.
Yep, Crystal Lake Regional Trail, the Loose Line, and then Medicine Lake Regional Trail. So you can access some of those other trails too.
Right.
So that'll be nice.
And so then it's like an added benefit to both cities, but also to the ones that it connects up with too.
Right, and if you're riding bike, there's a bunch of people who ride a lot of miles, and they're coming from other side of St. Paul, and they're using these same trails, and this just gives them another option.
Yeah, it's interesting when you get a map of bike trails, layered on top of how many places there are that you can go.
It's amazing.
And there's stuff in the paper always about that the metropolitan area is amongst the top users of bikes recreationally, but also to get to work and jobs.
I wasn't aware of the commuting.
Yeah,
I knew it was pretty high for recreation.
Yeah, right, but in both ways, because I think Portland used to be the highest, and in the metropolitan area in Portland juggle back and forth.
Okay, interesting.
So a big interest there. Okay, I want to thank you very much.
You're welcome.
For sharing all these ideas and what's happening, and people are updated now on what's happening in Crystal. We're glad that you've been with us tonight, and we hope you'll join us again next week. Bye.